First, understand that respectable institutions are often built on blood money. When you see a family name on a hospital wing, ask where the money came from. When you see philanthropists celebrated in the media, check their business. Because charity is how you launder a fortune and buy immunity. The Sassoon Library in Mumbai is beautiful. It's still used. But it was built with opium money. That doesn't erase the library. But it should change how we remember who paid for it. Second, state-backed drug operations are legal until they're not. The Sassoons operated within the law. Purdue Pharma operated within the law. Both were protected until public outrage became too loud to ignore. The system doesn't stop drug empires. It profits from them until it can't anymore. And when that moment comes, the system doesn't dismantle the empire. It just forces them to pivot. Third, the same playbook runs over and over. Industrialize addiction, maximize profit. Donate to institutions. Wait until the bodies pile up. Declare bankruptcy or retire, and let the next generation inherit the clean money. This isn't ancient history. This is the present. Opioids in the 2000s. Benzodiazepines overprescribed today. ADHD medications creating long-term dependency. Antidepressants with withdrawal symptoms as bad as the condition they treat. Every decade, there's a new drug, a new market, a new wave of addiction disguised as treatment. Fourth, follow the money in every crisis. The Sassoons made billions, but they weren't the only ones. British banks financed the trade. British insurers protected the shipments. British manufacturers built the ships. British ports processed the cargo. British officials collected taxes. The entire empire profited. And the same is true today. The Sacklers made $20 billion from Purdue Pharma. But how much did the distributors make? How much did the pharmacy chains make? How much did the doctors who overprescribed make from kickbacks and speaking fees? How much did the FDA officials who approved the drugs make when they left government and joined pharma boards? The opioid crisis wasn't just Purdue. It was the entire medical industrial complex. Every level profited, and every level is still operating. Fifth, medical systems are built on substances that create dependency. This isn't conspiracy, this is business model. Antidepressants are prescribed for years, sometimes decades. ADHD medications create lifelong patients who can't function without them. Pain management creates chronic users. Diabetes medications are taken for life. Blood pressure medications are taken for life. Cholesterol medications are taken for life. Modern medicine has shifted from curing disease to managing chronic conditions. And managing chronic conditions means creating permanent customers who pay monthly for the rest of their lives. The Sassoons addicted China to opium. Modern medicine calls it treatment. But the economics are identical. Create dependency. Ensure repeat customers. Profit for decades. History shows us that drug empires follow a cycle. They rise with state backing. They profit from mass addiction. They buy legitimacy through philanthropy. They fracture from internal conflict or external pressure. And they dissolve, leaving behind buildings with their names and graves filled with their victims. The Sassoons built modern Mumbai. They funded infrastructure that millions of Indians still use today. They also destroyed millions of Chinese lives. Both things are true. And the same will be said about the pharmaceutical empires of today. They funded research. They built hospitals. They developed medications that help people. And they also killed hundreds of thousands through greed and negligence. Both things are true, and history will remember both. The Sassoons were called the Rothschilds of the East, a compliment at the time, a warning now. Because every empire built on addiction eventually collapses. The only question is how much damage it does before it falls, and whether anyone will be held accountable. History says, no, the Sassoons weren't. David Sassoon died wealthy and respected in 1864. His sons inherited titles and fortunes. Albert Sassoon died in 1896, a knight of the British Empire. Their names are on buildings and in history books, mostly remembered for philanthropy, not opium. The Sacklers won't be fully held accountable either. They've paid settlements, but they kept most of the money. They've been socially exiled, but they're still billionaires. And in 50 years, their grandchildren will be funding new institutions, and people will have forgotten the opioids. Because that's how time works. It buries the bodies and polishes the legacy. And the next family running this con is already being celebrated as visionaries and philanthropists. They're funding medical research, they're endowing universities, they're building museums. And somewhere in their portfolio is a drug, a treatment, a product that's creating dependency and extracting wealth from human suffering. The trick is always the same. Make your money from human suffering, donate enough to buy silence, and wait for time to turn your crimes into history. By then, you're dead. Your family is rich. And the buildings with your name become monuments to generosity instead of memorials to the bodies you left behind.